So, good evening. Today was a pretty great day because we made officially 5,000 miles since we started this whole thing. I got the car with a broken speedometer over the counter at 330403, and that's where the speedometer got stuck somewhere around 2014, 2015, looking at the vehicle records, and I got that fixed in December 2020 when I got the car. About 4 weeks after I had it, it was delivered here, and until that point I probably had driven only maybe 25-50 miles, at the most 75, because it was after I fixed the speedometer that I did what I call the big repair, where I did the entire intake system and the injectors and the fuel distributor and all of the stuff. Now, I shared with you the trip down to Oklahoma City, and we got some 700 odd miles, and now the question came, which oil, or at what point should I do an oil change? The manual, I will get to this in a second, will tell us about 7,500 miles, 7,500 miles. But before I want to do that, I'm going to show you, this is my new ACC unit, and you can see how nice the wheel looks. If you look over here, let me see if I can turn that a little bit. Yeah, you can see this, the push buttons, everything works perfectly, air conditioning and everything, heating, cooling. And I have changed the let me see, we have this picture here. I took this afternoon. We changed the in-car temperature when I fixed which is up here, well, right here above. When I did this, I changed the NTC when I changed the blower motor, the aspiration blower. And then I had already fixed the outside temperature, which is mounted here in the air intake system channel. And I had changed last year the coolant temperature sensor for the ACC system. And then I had replaced the NTC for the heater core. I did with the NTCs I had shared with you, besides of the vacuum element. So all of this is working now if it was in factory brand new condition. The only NTC I have not changed is the one here on the side going into the evaporator unit. Or is it the condenser? I get them always mixed up. Well, the air conditioning part of the AC system, that is the only one I haven't changed, because I didn't want to open this up. The air flap here for the diverter flap is still working, so there was no reason to get back there yet. And I figured the next time I have to go underneath here, I will put that in. But that basically concluded the ACC system, and it looks quite nice and quite, for 200 bucks, I got pretty lucky. Well, anyway, we got everything. This is the normal operating temperature when I run the air conditioning, about 85 degrees Celsius, 90 degrees Celsius on my car. Today we had 66 degrees Fahrenheit, as you can see. Now, of course, the first source when we look at back to the oil change is the recommended service intervals, and they are in the maintenance book, this here. And as you can see, is everyone has filled that basically out here, you know, all the different places where it went to, and then some of the stuff was, I guess, not fully documented. I put in the replacement of the brake fluid, and here it will tell me, or it will tell us in this book, on how often we should change this. And in this book we will find the first thing is the note here. I'm going to read this to you, not because you can't read, but it may not be sharp enough for you to read. Let me see if we can get this. This is the iPhones. I have been updating the iPhone. I'm in their beta program, and I get an update, and then the camera doesn't work right anymore. So now we can focus on this. Let me see. Here we go. in case, because I'm reading it too, because the closed captioning will be, or this video will be added with closed captioning by YouTube. So if I read this, then it is for those viewers who follow the closed captioning. If I don't read it and you can read it, just read it here in the video, then the people who need closed captioning will not be able to read this or to read it in the closed caption. So I'm going to read it. In the case of severe operating conditions or heavy use, mainly in city traffic or over short distances, frequent mountain driving, poor roads, dusty and muddy conditions, etc., the following work should be performed at half the normal intervals. Engine oil change with filter change every 6,000 kilometers or 3,750. So I have that condition, mainly in city traffic and short distances. Short distances is usually 5 miles, 10 miles. Frequent mountain driving, no. Poor roads, sometimes dusty and muddy, a little bit out here in Kansas. So primarily city, even though we have highway traffic in it. So automatic transmission is 15,000 miles, tires 7,500, that's no problem. Air cleaner 15,000. And the brake fluid, and this is the important part, should be replaced annually, preferably in the spring. So this is coming up, and I did the last brake fluid change with a complete flush. Let me see, I have this all written down here. Coolant was done on 6/5, so June 5th last year. And where was this here? Oil, the last oil change was at 2,181. So we're about due for one at 3,750. And let me see here, I put the brake fluid was in May. So in May, I'm gonna 331,600 miles. I did the last brake fluid change, and I will then add this. So I do this every year because it really doesn't take that much. And now the interesting thing is, the next question is, which oil should we use? And that usually creates a whole bunch of interest and woohoo in the online community of what oil is to be used. In the original Mercedes-Benz manual, which came with the vehicle, it will tell us here 10 weight 40, 10 weight 50, 15 weight 40, 15 weight 50, or 20 weight 40, 20 weight 50, 30, 10 weight 30, 5 weight. I have 20 weight 40 in here right now, and for the summer I'm going to go over to 20 weight 50. That won't make any difference, and we need 8.5 quarts for a complete fill. And now comes the question, which engine oil should we use? Or before we get to that, let's answer the question, and how much engine oil should we be able to use? What is permissible? When are we using too much engine oil? The common wisdom on smaller vehicles is usually 1 quart per 1,000 miles. Well, on these large engines, as you can see here, for Mercedes-Benz, this is the Tabellenbuch Personenwagen. That's basically the table book or service book for the service technicians. We got here the consumption in the city at certain speeds and kilometers and liters per 100 kilometers. And then it says down here, Motorölverbrauch maximal 1,5 Liter pro 1,000 kilometer. Motor oil consumption maximum 1.5 liters for 1,000 kilometers. That is 621 miles. So we are allowed to use 2.41 liters for every 1,000 miles, and 2.41 liters is 2.5 quarts. So this engine is allowed, or these engines, this is for the both for the 4.2 liter and for the 5.6 liters. they can use up to 2.5 quarts per 1,000 miles before we need to change the oil, the seals on the valve seals, so it won't have the oil going in there. But this is how much oil they actually use. That is permissible. And so if you start using 3 quarts for 1,000 miles or 1.5 quarts for 500 miles, then you know it's time to look at your head and do the I forgot what they call them. I think it's the seals. Anyway, this is how much you can actually are allowed to use before you have to do any work to the valves and valve seals. That should answer that question. So that's quite high compared to the common wisdom. I used approximately 1 quart, maybe a tad bit more, in the 731 mile trip I did down to Oklahoma and back. So I would say I'm probably at 1.5 quarts right now with the way my engine is for 1,000 miles. And that's basically what I'm seeing. So I need about 3/4 of a quart every 500 miles. And I have always a quart in my trunk. I can always check it and fill it up. That should resolve that issue if you ever wondered on how much oil you can actually use. Now, the question back to the Mercedes-Benz manual and which oil is permissible to be used in these engines. The most current sheet for Mercedes-Benz, which Mercedes-Benz has published, is from October 2021, first revision. There is no updated version on this yet, and this is MB sheet 223.2. If you're wondering, you can Google this and you can find it. And you will see this is all the new vehicles which are currently in production. And now we have to read the footnotes down here. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit more. Here the notes. This table contains only engine oil specifications for engines that are currently in production. Information on unlisted or older engine types are described in the manual of the vehicle or the maintenance instructions. So they do not give out any specifications for their newer oils or where that is what oil to use. So you have to basically go by what they're telling you here. This means that the new oils, which they're recommending here in their sheets under these numbers here, which are specified and meet these criteria numbers, 22.65 all the way up to 229.71, are not applicable for the 560 or the 420 or any one of the older cars. And that gets me now back to the actual service manual, which is this here. This is the section 0101.20 for the engines 116, 117, 119, and 120. And it gives me a little bit wider range, but it is all SAE grades, and it is all non-synthetic oils. And I also can check now if I have the correct oil dipstick in my car, gray or light blue gray, for what you need, and the torques here. So that leaves us with the question, we have now a variety to choose from here, in terms of the weights associated with it. But because this is from 1991, when this was published, this was prior to the time of synthetic oils, of what we got, the 0 weights or 5 weight 40s and all of this stuff. You can see here we have the 20 weight category. This is the preferred one from the days I remember it. Back in the days, we used to use 1030, and this was then Pennzoil for most of the time, Quaker State Pennzoil. And when you look through this here in my booklet, I can point this out again, is they put in here Mobile 1540. I cannot read this here. This is now in the mid-90s already. Pennzoil 1540. They did a little bit lighter weights. Pennzoil 1540. Pennzoil 1540. Johnson Motors. They did 1540. And wasn't a Mercedes-Benz dealership put 1540 in there. So this is basically everything what we're looking through here is basically long motors, motor cars 1540. And then I guess at the higher mileage they went a little bit heavier with this stuff, where they put 60,000 mile service. You can see where this car was serviced in this. This was brake fluid. Let me go one page back here. So Mobile 1540. And like I said, I have changed this now to 2050 or 2040, and I mixed some 2050 in there, and that is working fine. Now, I talked to one Mercedes-Benz dealership. They said they're using the 229.5, which is this here. And there's a lot of this, what is that? Flexi moly, liquid moly, whatever that is called. And they're using this. And then Jean-Pierre said something about it, high zinc. The reality in this is this: I have to do an oil change every 3,750 miles in city driving. These are all high mileage oils. Basically with the high mileage oils, you do this probably, every 15,000 miles now or 30,000. I'm not all up to date on the newer vehicles. I know that they keep the oil in there much longer, in the transmission oil, almost 100,000 miles. And there's no more drains on it because you have to basically backflush the systems and this, that, and the other thing. So that is the interesting question. Now, I do not want to steer something up, and don't tell me that I told you have to use now Pennzoil 2040 or 2050. You can put in your car whatever you want to put in there. If you want to put vegetable oil in there as oil, then go ahead and do it by any means. I'm just kidding. The liquid moly, they also have the additives which is going to prolong the lives and this, that, and the other thing. I would kindly ask you, leave your comments with the engine oil you prefer. I know what Ken Bergsma says. I know which oil he has, is using on the engines. I think primarily on the diesels, because he does a lot more diesel stuff than he actually does gasoline engines, especially the V8s. He has done a few of them, but not too many. But I would be interested in hearing your opinion or reading your opinions on this. So I encourage you to write down in the comment section your favorite oil and why you think that is the best oil to use. I agree with JP that the oil should have a higher zinc because of the wear in it. There's no question about it. But at 3,750 miles, you're basically wasting your money if you're changing the oil that frequently. The other thing is the economical factor was in the days. Pennzoil used to sell the yellow bottles. That was the standard oil. First, you went to Napa or Western Auto we had back then, or O'Reilly. That was the three predominant car places here, car shops in Kansas City, and you could buy a can or a quart over there. I think they were $1.99, and then they went up in the mid-90s to $2.49, $2.99 by the end of the 90s. And then Sam's Club started to carry it by the case, and so did Costco. So you could go into Costco and buy a half a case. I think they came 6 quarts to, it was a half a case. And then they would have them on sale, $2.29 per quart or $1.99 per quart. So an oil change really didn't cost you more than $20 plus the filter. And the filter was $8, $6 or something like this with the copper washer for the oil filter housing. And so an oil change was $30 when you did this yourself on these cars, and you did that in city driving every 3,750 miles. And with these high expensive oils they have now, which lasts a lot longer, that would be a colossal waste of money. But I will follow the service manual because that's what the engine was made for. And that's what they're recommending. They had their reason why they put that in the manual, and I don't think that the oil is going to change any of this, especially since Mercedes-Benz, again, this is a Mercedes-Benz paper here, states that the recommendation, the information, this is the most important thing, is you have to always read this to the bottom. Oops. Here it is. This table contains only engine oil specifications for engines that are currently in production. Information on unlisted or older engine types are described in the manual of the vehicle. And the manual of the vehicle is this. This is what they're referring to. Or the maintenance instructions, which is this here. And the maintenance instructions look on the first page. Whoops, let me unzoom. So with this, I'm basically following what Mercedes-Benz wrote here. This is the maintenance manual for the years model year 1981 to 1993. And that covers everything. And this was published by Mercedes-Benz of North America. This was prior synthetic oil, before we had synthetic oil or the oils we have now. Liquid moly, or whatever that is called, wasn't even on the horizon at that point. And like I said, it was Quaker State, or Pennzoil. That was the big names here in the United States, at least. Well, anyway, with that, you have a great night, and I'm looking forward to your comments.